My name is Lena Parker. I am 33 years old. I live in Boulder, Colorado, a small, pretty city nestled at the foot of the Rocky Mountains, where winters are white and summers are fragrant with the scent of pine. I used to believe that, after all the losses, my life had found a new beginning, a second chance. The person who gave me that chance was David Parker. We met at a technology conference. David, tall, quiet, with blue-gray eyes that always seemed to be in deep thought. He didn't ask much about my past, and didn't seem shy when he learned that I had been married and had a little daughter. I remember clearly the moment he sat with me in the coffee shop, the dim yellow light shining on his face as he softly said, "I don't care what you've been through. I just care, from now on, we're going to walk together." At that time, I believed, without a doubt. David's family, the Parkers, are well known in Boulder. They own a chain of rental properties, from offices, shopping centers to weekend homes. My in-laws, Ron and Claudia Parker, are the old-fashioned type of Americans, conservative, formal, and very concerned with family lineage. From the first time I met them, I sensed a coldness hidden behind their polite smiles. They didn't just ask me polite questions. They investigated. They asked about my ex-husband, why they divorced. They asked about my family, what my parents did for a living. But most notably, they were very sensitive to the fact that I had a daughter, Ruby. I still remember Claudia's eyes when I introduced Ruby. "Oh, she's cute, but raising kids these days is hard." It sounded innocuous, but I read in her voice another layer of meaning. Ruby, in their eyes, would forever be a scratch in the perfect family tree they dreamed of. I tried everything, to fit in, to be humble, even to blame myself for being unsatisfactory. I wanted Ruby to have a complete family, with both her father and mother and her grandparents. I wanted her to grow up in love and never have her friends tease her about her family situation. And David, he's not bad really. He's just weak. Every time I gently reminded him about his parents' cold treatment of Ruby, he waved his hand. They need time to see her as a family member. Don't think too much about it. Time. I gave them almost 3 years. But time didn't make them love Ruby more. On the contrary, every Thanksgiving, every Christmas party, I saw clearly that Ruby was always left out. The gifts lacked Ruby's name. The family photos only had the real grandchildren. The questions were about plans to have another child, as if Ruby had never existed. I used to comfort myself. As long as I was patient, as long as I proved myself, as long as I was good enough, everything would be fine. But I was wrong. Little did I know that, just a few weeks later, the Parker family would make a terrible choice, forcing me to choose. Either give up my daughter or give up everything. And this time, I did not keep quiet. 2 weeks after my father-in-law's birthday party, where Ruby had been almost forgotten from the gift list, David's family invited me to a private dinner. No relatives, no guests. Just me, David, and Mr. and Mrs. Parker. The dinner was strange. Quiet. Everyone spoke unusually softly. I sensed something was about to happen. And I was right. As dessert was being served, my father-in-law, Ron, suddenly looked at me, then placed a thick envelope on the table. Without saying a word, I looked at David, who just nodded slightly. I opened the envelope. Inside was an updated copy of their will, along with a strange document. In the will, Ron and Claudia officially named David as the sole heir to the entire multimillion-dollar real estate system. But next to it was a secret agreement stamped by the family law office. The content was very clear. The condition for David to receive the advance inheritance privilege is that the David family must ensure that Ruby does not live in the Parker house and is sent to the Hidden Hills boarding system in Oregon, at least for the next 5 years. I was stunned. I asked, "Boarding? Send her away?" Ruby is only 10 years old. Claudia remained calm. Sipping tea, she will study in a good environment. She needs more discipline. And there, no one will say she is an illegitimate child. Everyone is the same. It sounded gentle. But each word stabbed a knife into the heart of a mother like me. I turned to David. He did not look at me. He just said softly, "I think you should consider. This is the future of the whole family. Ruby will be fine. She is fine." Just 3 words. But it made me realize David did not choose her, did not choose me. He did not choose a complete family with all its members. He chose prosperity and a future without worries or responsibilities. I put down the paper and looked straight at Claudia. "This is why for the past 3 years, you haven't called Ruby by her name? Only she little girl it." Claudia shrugged. "Every family needs order. We only think of the best for the future." I smiled lightly, not happy at all. The future? If I sign this paper, Ruby will think her mother sent her away as an unnecessary item. She will think her mother abandoned her and chose her own happiness. No one in this world needs her anymore. How sad and self-conscious will she be? Do you think that is the best thing for a child? I was so mad that I could no longer control my emotions. It was not simply anger, but also pain and disappointment. I thought about Ruby, the little girl who used to wait for me every night to read stories, or sometimes put her hand on my belly and ask, "Mommy, when I grow up, will you still be with me?" I used to hug her and promise, "Mommy won't go anywhere. I will always be here with Ruby." I stood up. My voice was not loud, but loud enough for everyone to hear. "I won't sign. I won't send my child away for money. If the family wants to remove her from this family, then I will go with her." David tried to pull me back. "Lena, you don't understand. It's not forced. It's just a choice." I gritted my teeth. If it's a choice, I choose my child, not a large fortune and a rich life without a child. I didn't go home that night. I drove around Boulder feeling lost, angry, sad, and in disbelief. David, the man I trusted more than anything, wasn't on my side. And worse, he thought that forcing me to leave my daughter was negotiable. I couldn't sleep. The next morning, I sent Ruby off to school early and quietly went to see Kendra, an old friend who worked in the legal department of a real estate company. I told her everything and asked Kendra to check some information, specifically the inheritance agreement Ron and Claudia had given me the night before. Kendra agreed, but what she found left me speechless. Yesterday's agreement wasn't the first one. For months ago, David and his parents went to the lawyer's office to sign a temporary memorandum of understanding, in which he pledged to send Ruby to boarding school as part of psychological healing to help the Parker family stabilize internally before the inheritance. The agreement also had a signature line: "I, David Parker, agree to these guiding terms and commit to implementing them when the conditions are met." I didn't know whether I should be hurt or angry. Not only did he agree, he even actively arranged it behind my back, writing benevolent words, as if Ruby were a problem that needed to be isolated, not a child who needed to be loved. That night I went home. Ruby was asleep. David was watching TV. I didn't beat around the bush. You signed that agreement 4 months ago, right? He turned around, paused for a moment. Then he said, quietly, Lena, who told you that? I threw the scan of the agreement on the table. Don't listen to anyone. I have evidence. David was silent for a few seconds. Then he sighed, I just want to take care of everything. I'm afraid you'll react negatively if you find out early. I interrupted, react negatively? Send my child away as if she's an obstacle? Are you afraid I'll find out? Or are you afraid I won't let you and your family get the money? David stood up, raising his voice slightly. You're the one who's in charge of this house. You don't understand the pressure. I smiled faintly. No, I understand. But I didn't expect the person who put pressure on me would be the one who promised to protect me. At that moment, I wasn't angry anymore. It was just the silence of someone who knew he had reached his limit. You didn't choose Ruby. You didn't choose me. You chose money. And false peace. David looked at me. His eyes confused. Lena, what are you going to do? I replied, very clearly, I will not let anyone take my daughter from me. And if that means cutting me off from the Parker family, then I am ready. I left the room. Each step was heavy, but steady. I did not know what I would do next. But I knew, from this moment on, I was no longer alone. I would fight for Ruby, even if it was a whole family on the other side. I didn't leave right after the fight with David. I was still in that house, but my mind wasn't there. I was living like a shadow of my own marriage. The cold meals, the empty words. Ruby was still innocent, but I saw in her eyes, she was trying to read my mother's face. She knew something was wrong. 3 days later, I got a call from Lucille, my ex-husband's mother. Someone I loved dearly, but hadn't heard from in a long time. Her voice was shaking. Lena, how are you? I got a strange call from a woman named Lena Parker. She said she wanted to find out more about your past, to make sure you didn't hurt David. I stood there, stunned. Claudia had called my ex-husband's mother before David and I were married. She hadn't believed me from the start. She had investigated, set up, and even fabricated a story that I was having signs of mental instability after my husband died to see if there was a risk to the Parker family. Lucille, who knew me well, refused to talk to her. But that call told me one thing. They never wanted me in this house. That night, I went to David's computer. We had a shared computer for family records. And in the estate planning folder, I found a document titled Long-Term Transition, D. Parker Internal Memo. Inside was an estate plan created by Claudia and Ron with detailed timelines. March. Move Lena and Ruby into the main house, completed. May. Approach Ruby, put her on a soft discipline program at home. July. Propose Hidden Hills boarding school. October. Sign a commitment to split Lena's assets, ensuring no impact on the Parkers if they divorce. I couldn't believe it. I was reading a plan to get rid of me and my mother like a junkyard. Every step, every milestone, every kind gesture from Claudia, it turned out to be just the preparation phase. Ruby wasn't just not suitable for their family. Ruby was an obstacle that needed to be dealt with. As for me, I was brought into this house as a temporary link. I remember the first time Ruby called David, Dad. She timidly said, "Can I call you Dad? If you don't mind." David smiled and nodded, stroking her hair. From now on, I am your daughter. She believed. I believed too. But now, I understand. The Parker family never accepted Ruby. And David has never really been a father. I looked back at all of David's actions over the past 3 years. Silent when his mother was cold towards Ruby. Avoiding me when I asked to clarify the boundaries. And now, it turns out he even signed the entire plan to eliminate us, with the reason being, ensuring internal harmony to prepare for inheritance. I don't know, he was weak or he was calculating. But whatever it was, he chose the other side. That night, I didn't cry. I wrote only one line in my diary, tomorrow. I will no longer be a silent woman. I had a plan. I would expose the truth. In front of them, in the very house they used to manipulate me. And this time, I would set the conditions. I didn't leave right away. I knew that to leave a place that had once been called home, I had to leave with my head held high. I made a plan. Very clear. Step by step. I called Kendra, my lawyer friend, prepared the necessary documents, collected all the emails, messages, papers, and the transition plan that Claudia and Ron had made. I printed them out, put them in a folder. Then I told David, I'm having dinner with your family this Sunday. For the last time. Sunday night. The Parkers were all there. Ron, Claudia, David, me. No Ruby. I sent her to a friend's house so she wouldn't have to witness what was about to happen. No one knew what I was bringing. They thought I was coming back to apologize, to humble myself, to negotiate. But no, I wasn't coming to negotiate. I was coming to close. I waited until the main course was served. Everyone seemed relaxed, as if nothing had happened. I put the file on the table and opened it. Before you eat, I have something to share. Ron frowned. Claudia stopped eating. David began to worry. I pulled out each page. The Memorandum of Understanding on the Separation of the Stepchildren, signed by David. I read aloud the part. Arrangements will be made to remove Ruby from the Parker household in the fourth quarter. Claudia's email to my ex-mother-in-law, fabricating my mental instability. We just want to know if she has ever lost control or harmed the children. The transition plan, detailing the timeline for removing me and my children. I held it up and pointed to the line. Move Ruby first so Lena loses her balance. Claudia paled. Ron's neck turned red with anger. David lowered his head. I looked straight at them. I am not a commodity to be negotiated. My daughter is not a burden to be dealt with. I turned to David. You knew everything. And you signed it. You remained silent. You pretended not to know. That is not protection. It is complicity. I pulled an envelope from my pocket. Inside were the signed divorce papers. And a division of assets prepared by Kendra. Here are the divorce papers. I signed them. The assets are divided equally. But the house, where Ruby and I live, was transferred to my name last week. I don't want anything from the Parkers. Not money. Not status. I just want freedom. And my daughter. David stood up. His face blank. Lena. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to turn out like this. I looked at him calmly. I didn't let it turn out like this. You're the one who did it. And I can't save you anymore. I turned to Claudia. Thank you for teaching me a valuable lesson. Family is not about who is born into it. It's about who chooses to stay, without changing the terms. I left the table. No one stopped me. As I walked through the Parkers' big door, I didn't look back. No more fear, no more pain. Just a sense of lightness in my heart. I made the right choice. And I won, in my own way. A month later, Ruby and I moved to a small town called Salida, about 3 hours from Boulder. It was sunny, surrounded by hills, and no one knew the name Parker. We rented a small house with a yard, just enough for the two of us, and a cat I had just adopted. Ruby named her Hope. I didn't fix the washing machine right away, nor did I buy a new TV. But every morning I opened the window and listened to the birds. For the first time in years, I felt truly at peace. Ruby went to the local elementary school. She no longer asked me, "Mommy, am I a burden?" Instead, she said, "Mommy, I drew you today as a superhero." I hung the picture on the wall, right next to my door. Every time I saw it, I smiled. Not because I was a superhero, but because I hadn't abandoned her. I lost a husband, losing a family that promised to love like blood, losing a future full of assets, full of stability that everyone thought was ideal. But I did not lose myself. I got back. White heavy check mark freedom. White heavy check mark dignity. White heavy check mark, and most importantly, a child who knows his mother will never leave him. I used to think that forgiveness was staying. It was being patient. It was enduring for the children. Now I understand. Sometimes forgiveness is letting go. And teaching my children, no one has the right to force you to give up yourself, to be accepted by others. If you are living in a family where love always comes with conditions, if you are having to choose between keeping a relationship or keeping yourself, remember, freedom does not need a vote. No one needs approval. All it needs is you, and a first step. Tonight, Ruby and I made strawberry pancakes, her favorite. I wore an apron. She sang to herself. Hope the cat lay on the sofa, dozing. And I know I made the right choice. It's not an easy path, but it's a true path. If one day you stand in front of a door that has been smoldering for a long time, don't wait until it collapses. Open the door, walk out, and take a deep breath. Because you don't need anyone to vote for your life. You just need to love yourself enough to walk.